Hey, what's good, y'all? Welcome back to the channel, and thank you so much for stopping by today. Happy holidays. I hope everyone's relaxing, eating a bunch of food, all that good stuff. And today I wanted to do something quick and a little different. We'll definitely do a deck tech. Wouldn't be this channel if we weren't talking at least about something going on in Magic Spellslingers. But, I had some other folks comment like, hey, what's your background with, card games? How did you get into this kind of stuff? And so I thought I'd go over a couple fun things about myself and about the channel. And I'd really love to just thank everyone for their support on the channel, whether you've liked, commented, or subscribed. It all just helps this channel get out there. I'm trying to build my own community in the Spellslingers and just Magic in general, of folks who enjoy educational content, love talking about the game, love nerding out about it. So that's really what I'm here for. And my ultimate goal is to hit, partner with YouTube. We're definitely ways away, but my channel started out with like maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 subscribers of some close friends. And now we're, closing in on 40. So even just in a couple of weeks and putting up content, it's just, the support is really visible. And I just appreciate everyone's time and just their passion for the game, because I think it's really, really great, and the community is also just something I really, really enjoy. So, I thought I'd start out by just kind of explaining a little bit of, who I am and like how I got into stuff. Just a little bit about me, a little bit about the channel and what we'll be doing. But baseline is I picked up Magic the Gathering when I was like 13. Been playing for about 16 years now. A mix of casual, a mix of competitive, and I picked up Hearthstone a little bit. I really just, the thing that I love about Magic the Gathering is managing your life total, whether choosing to block, choosing to attack. How do you make these decisions? And Hearthstone has its own version of that, but I really think Magic the Spellslingers, unsurprisingly, has really nailed that piece of Magic the Gathering. And I think it's a level of skill expression that I've just always enjoyed, those decision points around managing your life total as a resource. So I thought that, I just kind of explained. I personally don't have a ton of experience with card games other than Magic the Gathering. Played Magic the Gathering Online, played Magic Arena. Big limited player, love drafting. That's just one of my passions with this game, and I'm hoping in the future Magic Spellslingers will have that too. I think that would be great. So if you're a big supporter of that, go into the Magic Spellslingers Discord, put that under suggestions like myself. I'm sure it would take a lot of work for the dev team, but I think it would also be a different experience for other players. And I'd love to see that as a part of the game. So just a big Magic the Gathering nerd. Been playing for a long time. Competed at tournaments. Definitely was not putting up as many great results when it comes to like GPs back in the day or PTQs. But I've won a PPTQ before. I've competed in when they had states and those kind of tournaments and done relatively okay. So I always had a passion. Probably never had as much time as I would have liked. I'm a social worker during the day, so things are pretty busy, pretty exhausting. I love the work, but it's always nice to come home and just nerd out and play some games. So for anyone who can relate, I hope everyone's taking care of themselves right now and just trying to carve out some time to relax and play some Spellslingers. So that's kind of me. One thing I'd love to just shout out is an article that I recently got to write, courtesy of Boss MTG, who, was a pro that I actually followed in the scene for Magic the Gathering, and they're super passionate about the game. And so let me just switch over real quick just so y'all can see it. So it's slingspells.com. They already have a couple other primers up, but, Ral shockingly takes over the ladder. This is just a primer for like new players to Ral, people who despise him, people who love him. Thought I'd just show a little bit of the article here. Have a few different deck lists and different explanations. And I can't thank, those folks enough, because I really just loved writing the article. I've always wanted to write, strategy, educational content for Magic the Gathering. And, there are tons of contributors, but, breaking into this scene, I was really hoping that I'd have the opportunity to do that. So just want to shout that out. Feel free to take a look at that. It's at slingspells.com. So, that's, really it for me in terms of who I am. My name is Tim, as you guys might have figured out, and for those Office buffs, you'll know where my name comes from. Um, other than just checking in about, how I got into this sort of gaming, a little bit about my real life, I thought I'd just also take a moment to talk about future content. Really would love to just feature pretty much every planeswalker on the channel. Ideally, I would love for anyone who's starting the game to be like, okay, where do I start with what planeswalker? How does it work? What are the cards that, make this deck sort of tick? I definitely do concentrate on, I would say, the quote, like higher tier strategies, just because I want to guide those who have been, grinding this game and are trying to be successful towards the decks that I just have, from my own play experience, found success with. I would love to do, different deck techs, different strategies that people are seeing. Whether it's, doing some beginner videos. I have one or two on the channel from when I first started. Just open to a lot of things, and who knows, maybe even like coaching sessions at some point. That was something I dabbled a little bit in with Magic the Gathering, and as you can tell, just very passionate about this sort of stuff and nerding out over the games. So, definitely open to doing stuff like that. So I think in the next week, you'll definitely see a couple different deck techs coming up. Definitely some Mythic gameplay. I'm at 148 right now after coming back from break. And I'm going to probably be trying to push for, I would say, top 20 is my goal for this month. I hope I can show a little bit of that journey to y'all. I know you're probably being like, why is Teferi here? And you haven't talked about Teferi yet. So let's real quick take a trip to talk about Teferi. Shout out to Lukester, who is someone who's been pretty active in the Discord, especially for Teferi, for this list. I have not personally gotten to play a ton of games with the deck, but I think this could be a really great place to start. I really like the build. The choices in one-ofs I think are really interesting. And from what I understand, I think that Teferi can be really strong for the meta right now. Has game into the mid-range decks, has game into Raw. So if you've been wanting to play control, I really feel like Teferi is the best control planeswalker right now. So we're going to do a quick, just going over things, and then I think we'll, take off for the day. But Mana Constrictor, this card I think is fine. It's a 1-mana 2/2. It's going to make their cost card a little bit more, their cards cost a little bit more, which can, it just helps slow the pace of the game. It's something that can trade with creatures early. Same thing with Runeshell Crab, right? A 1-mana 3/3 blocker is just excellent. Disorient, kind of a no-brainer. It's just a cheap, good trap. And again, for those who haven't played Teferi, after every third trap you play, you draw 2 cards. Used to be 1? Is that right? I think so. And now it's 2 cards. I mean, crazy card advantage when you're getting these traps to go off, and they're super, super cheap. So you can just kind of get a lot of momentum once you get that first proc from the passive. And let's definitely talk about Sacred Sanctum. I said this in my article. Any incidental life gain that you have is going to help you live against decks like Ral, right? So this allows you to still get an empty mana gem, which is incredibly important. You start at 27 health because you already have 25, and you're just able to gain 2 health here and there. It's just going to help the games go longer, which is what you want, because you have inevitability in this list, as you guys will see. Guess again, super hard to play around. I've played Ral, and obviously this is a good answer to Ral, right? Because if your opponent plays a second card, counter it, no matter what it is. So if you think there's going to be a turn that Ral is going off, or that Domri can double spell, whatever it is, this is just a hard counter to part of their strategy. And I think it's a good one-of, because it is relatively conditional. Into aggro, it's not going to do a ton for you. Isochron Scepter, probably if you're running any blue deck, you should be running Isochron Scepter. It's just an extremely efficient spell. It's a 2-for-1. It's got a little bit of, versatility as well, because it'll just give you 3 different options, and you can sort of work towards what you need in the game, depending on what's going on. So if you haven't crafted this card and you're playing any blue decks, you should definitely craft it. Negate, I think, is just good into the meta right now. It's going to help you, at certain points, really get the spell that your opponent is playing that you need. But it is conditional, right? It's not going to do too much in the creature-based decks. So I think the one of Negate is pretty smart here. Turtle, this thing can honestly beat your opponent down half the time. Also, it's a 2-mana 2/4. That's likely going to be a 3/4 almost instantly. So it's just a really efficient creature. It's alive. I think this is like the pet card of this deck. So let's talk about this for a second. So at the end of your opponent's turn, summon a Scab, which is a 2/2, and give it an upgrade for each unused mana you have. So the idea is, if you play this on turn 4, right, and you have 2 unused mana left over after casting it, the creature would come in with 2 upgrades. So like, for instance, I had like a 5/3, so it had gotten +3/+0 and Sneak. And honestly, if you play this, the later you play this card, the more like just crazy value you can get out of it. Whether it's a pressuring in a control mirror or just having a good creature to deal with mid-range and aggro, it's just it's a cheap trap, which is what you want in the deck anyway, and it's a body that can be really relevant on the board. Teferi Staff, no-brainer. 2 mana to get 2 cards. It's just obviously perfect for the deck. Immolating Glare, just one of the best, if not the best, answer for Teferi to deal with creatures. And let's see, what else we got? Absorb. It's just a signature card, right? It's going to help you increase your life total, and you're going to be able to counter their most important spell. I was actually playing against a Maniac deck the other day with this version, and you can kind of tell when they're trying to close out the game. And so half the time you can just like absorb on their most crucial turn, and usually it's going to stop them from comboing off. So the trick with Teferi is they're going to play around your traps, but they don't know what those traps are, right? So if you're operating in this meta where you're understanding they're going to play around certain things, you can really just try and be as efficient with your traps as possible, and really try and get kind of tricky, where like Teferi's Acolyte, it's going to make the next trap you arm cost 2 less. So if you play this on 4, right, it costs 3 to play this, and then it's going to make Absorb cost 1. It's a really good way to hide your traps, right? And the same thing with Hatch a Plan, right? They really can't say, okay, well, it's turn 4, and they played a 1 mana trap. Yes, it could be a 3 cost that's been reduced to 1. That could be anything. Right, so you can gain advantages by hiding information with some of these cards like Teferi's Acolyte and Hatch a Plan that cheapen your traps. Pixie Trickster. Really excited to play this. This is a new addition as per this list. I do think it's good. It's obviously kind of a nod to Ral, just in the sense of, changing their 6/5 horror or their giant Mizian monstrosity into a 3/3 frog. What more could you want? And it's a 3/1 body that flies, so, who knows? If it does live, it can maybe even help you close out the game. But I just want to caveat all of this. All of these cheap cards are just getting you to the last 3 that we're going to talk about. Second Sun's done. Heal yourself for 7, add a Second Sun to your deck, which is deal 10 damage to each creature and them. This is how you're closing out the game, right? Obviously, it costs a lot, but this is just the spell that really closes the door on them. Or, let's say you're playing into an aggro deck and they're getting you kind of low, but they don't want to commit into a Day of Judgment. Sometimes you just slam this on turn 6. They have to commit more to the board, you Day of Judgment, right? Because it's just inevitable that you're going to draw the Second Sun, especially when you're using traps and drawing 2 cards every couple of turns, right? Day of Judgment, not too much to say here, right? This is your very important board wipe. And then the one of Arcanis, right? Good for mid-range matchups, good for control matchups. Obviously going to help you close out the game with these 3 signature spells. So I think this is a good list. I'm definitely interested in playing it a bit more. I think if you're running into a lot of Ral, I think it's got good game into it. I think if you're running into a lot of mid-range, also think it's got good game. And I think into the control matchups, it's also still pretty good. You're going to have a couple cards that are a little bit blanked, but you can also pressure with stuff like It's Alive, which I do think is an incredible addition. And I really am interested to see how Pixie Trickster plays out a little bit more. So I know that was really quick. I'm on my way to do a little bit more traveling. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed just learning a little bit about my approach with things. And I hope you stick with the channel. So, thank you for your time and happy holidays. And we will catch you next time.